Conquer Athlete community, what's up? We're back here at Coach Tommy Palms, myself, Coach Jason Lyden. We are here on Conquer Coaches Chats on the YouTube channel. And on this show, we are going to, in a brief sort of way, dissect the CrossFit Open workouts 24.1 to 24.3. Now, we're not going to dissect them in regards to each individual workout, but what we're going to do is talk about if you didn't do well in these workouts, what does that mean? Because to me, Tommy, this was a completely capacity-based CrossFit Open. There was really no heavy lifting. There was no challenging barbells. There was no, for the most part, like excess. Yeah, I mean, we can say bar muscle ups, high skill, but hey, I mean, it was capacity-based driven to me, right? You didn't have to worry about heavy lifts at all. So if you didn't do well in this year's CrossFit Open, you didn't do well as you thought you could have done or should have done, what does that tell you from a capacity standpoint? And I know that's a very broad question for you, so let me backtrack then. And actually, we will take it workout by workout because the more I feel like I'm asking you the question, the broader the answer is getting. So we're going to start with 24.1, right, of the dumbbell snatch and burpees. 90 reps of each, 180 total reps. We saw the times for what this workout was. If you didn't do well in 24.1, what can that stem from?
Yeah, so I guess there's a few ways of looking at how the workout was. To me, that was certainly a burpee workout and how well you could do burpees. And so that is what I would be thinking at from like a capacity standpoint is like how many burpees can you do at a high rate and maintain a good speed for. The dumbbell snatches definitely accumulate some fatigue in the lower back, hamstrings, glutes, maybe some of the shoulders from the overhead pressing, I guess you can call it. So there's obviously going to be some added fatigue to your burpees there when you have to do them. But to me, it's like some people, if you had to rest because you couldn't keep doing burpees, then that's one person, and that person has to probably just like do more burpees, like spend time doing higher volume repetitions of burpee workouts and really build capacity. And then on the other end of the spectrum is the person who can do burpees and like didn't really need to stop, but like their rate of burpee speed kind of decreased and fell off maybe like halfway or 3/4 through the workout. And that person needs to work on, being resilient with burpees and being able to maintain speed and ability to keep pushing as lactate fills up or as they mentally get fatigued, whatever the actual limiter is for them in that movement in particular.
Got it.
That's kind of
Now,
yeah.
yeah. Now let's stay with 24.1 and think about what about from an energy system standpoint? What did that workout tell you in that realm?
Yeah. From an energy system standpoint, I would say that, you know, you're operating at 90% of your heart rate from 3, 2, 1, most likely. If you're not, then you're probably doing it wrong. And so that you probably didn't do well, or you're an amazing athlete and somehow didn't get tired. Either way, you're operating at like 90% lactate threshold through the roof. VO2 max is definitely going to be incorporated in that for sure. You're going to reach that peak at some point. So let's just say you're operating around 80% of your max heart rate for the first couple minutes, maybe 90%. And then those final few minutes, like you're operating probably at 90% plus of your max heart rate, which is really what's going to come down to your VO2 max and how much oxygen you could uptake and utilize. So if it was an energy system standpoint, you probably do need to spend some time really pushing the limits in some of your in-season or off-season training building up to the opening quarterfinals.
Got it. Now, when you're talking about pushing limits, what are you're saying like operating around that 90% heart rate range?
Yeah, exactly. Operating around there, building volume and time spent in there from week to week as the year gets closer and closer to in competition. That's how I would view it as.
Beautiful. So for the listeners out there, are you looking at this? Are you looking at workout one as being more proficient? Can you hear my dog barking?
Barely.
Sidetrack? Okay, my dog is like, I'm about to give him some psychedelics or something or weed. He's just like, I don't know what he's
Bug
doing.
it out.
He's just bugging out. I don't even know what he's barking at. So are
Well,
you
you're
thinking
home, so
about
he's freaking out.
what did you say?
He said he's not used to you being home, so he's
I
freaking out.
know.
He's
I
on high
know.
alert.
We're gonna get so sidetracked right now in this YouTube talk, and I apologize for people watching or listening right there. But when's the last time you got Odin's? Does Odin even get haircuts? Boxers don't
No,
get haircuts, right?
no, he just sheds.
I got my dog a haircut yesterday, Tommy. Guess how much it cost?
Oh God, 120.
$165
Yeah,
for a shave. She was like, I picked him up. She's like, okay, 165. And I'm like, I kind of
yep.
hesitated. I was like, how much? She was like, 165. I was like, you shaved him. All you did was shave him. And he sits there. He's a good dog. I'm like, what do we? I'm like, 165. I'm gonna start cutting dogs' hairs on the
Yeah,
side.
yeah,
Right?
bro. It's fucking
I'll
crazy.
charge 125. I'll undercut her $50 and still make out.
A whopper.
All right, back to 24.1. So are you thinking more anaerobic threshold training for athletes to be able, because the time frame, I mean, obviously you have some outliers, right, who are sub 6, but let's just say for the
Yeah,
sake of this conversation, 6.5
yeah.
to 8 minutes, right? So for that, are you thinking they need to be exposed and become more proficient inside anaerobic threshold areas, or they also need to be able to sprinkle in some VO2 max work for the hard pushes, or both?
I think both,
Mm.
because I think if you're good enough, you can make it very much VO2 max. I think if you're good enough, and what I mean by good enough is like if you have the muscle endurance and the technique to do so, you can push it so that it's basically feels like you're just running as hard as you possibly can. For the athlete who is inefficient at burpees and dumbbell snatches, they probably can't make it that fast because they might get bottlenecked by their endurance in one of their muscles or something like that. And that would be more like probably threshold work, but also improving that. That's where I'd spend time. But so they may not get to that 90% of their max heart rate. They might just be floating a little bit underneath it. Or they're just not mentally resilient enough to like push past 90% of their max heart rate. I think that's what it comes down to for a lot of people is that like they don't want to go there when they need to go there. Like they feel that point and it's like, I'll stay right here.
Yeah.
And so that's why VO2 max work would be important too, is just like being somewhat comfortable knowing that you have more in the tank and be willing to go there.
Yeah, I was surprised at how many people feedback was around like fear. Like I just feared blowing up, right? I feared um not being able to recover.
Yeah.
All right, let's say we're at a 24.2, 20-minute AMRAP, 300-meter row, 10 deadlifts, and 50 double unders. To do well in this workout from an energy system standpoint, well, let's take it the same way. To do well in this workout, what's your feedback on areas of that could yield the biggest return, whether that's from a capacity standpoint, like you referenced in 24.1, being better at burpees, and or an energy system standpoint?
Yeah. So this was a transition workout. And that's why I did it wrong. And I had one of my athletes do this one wrong. And so this was purely a transition workout for the best athletes in the world. Rowing was what I thought the workout was all about. And then what I saw was people could actually kind of dog the row, not dog, but like you didn't have to go to your fullest. And as long as your transitions were really good and your speed of reps on the double unders and deadlifts were high, you can get away with rowing 5 to 6 seconds slower than the person next to you and actually beat them, even if that same person went unbroken. But if they transition just a hair slower than you and their speed of reps slowed down, they were going to lose, which was really interesting. So it was a big time transition workout. So that's one thing you could do is practice workouts that have a lot of transitions really fast for a lot of rounds. And we've seen this in the open a few
And I
times.
Let me pause you 1 second. Just for the
Yeah.
listeners out there to get a better understanding of what Tommy's talking about. Tommy, what did you hold in a row for this workout?
Yeah, 149 pretty much on average.
149, and you went unbroken, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I went unbroken as well. I held a 143 on a rower.
Oh boy.
You beat me.
Yeah, exactly.
So for the listeners out there, that's what we're referencing. I held a 143. I never went over a 145. Average of 143 per 300-meter split. Unbroken on deadlifts. I maybe tripped up on the double unders twice, but I'm good at double unders, so me tripping
Yeah.
up isn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And Tommy beat me by a good amount of reps. So that's a reference point for the people listening. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. And yeah, no, I saw that. So now in the same breath, you know, if you're not a good rower at all and aren't able to push rowing paces, like that could still hurt you a little bit in this workout. It certainly does if you're trying to be one of the best in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to be able to row fast and you have to be resilient at doing that with, over and over again and operating at a high heart rate. I mean, that 20 minutes was pure 20 minutes of hell for me, at
Right.
least. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel comfortable at all. I haven't been doing CrossFit workouts, so that'll do something in there. But even for those who are pretty resilient, like you're just going from the minute you start. There was no pacing this workout for the reasons we're talking about. It was all about how fast you can transition and how fast of speed reps you can do on the rest of the movements. So there's no place to like take a breath, right? It's just fucking go 3, 2, 1 and see who can hold on. So once again, like, yes, you need to have, a good aerobic base for this workout. Otherwise, you'll probably die off a little bit, which is probably what happened to a lot of people. They were able to maintain a certain pace, and then maybe 12 to 15 minutes in, they broke down and couldn't maintain and operate at that same heart rate. So a lot of that'll have to do with their base. They probably just reached a peak too high and then wasn't able to maintain it. But also you have to be looking at anaerobic threshold because we know that you can operate at your threshold for a really long time, especially if you're someone who's super fit. And that's what you're doing in this workout is operating at a pretty damn high heart rate. For a majority, I would say, at least.
Yep. I love it.
A mix of both, right?
Yeah, perfect. I got no other question on that one. All right. Final workout 24.3, the 10 rounder. We know that the 1 minute rest really didn't do anything, right? That's just kind of like it. I almost look at that as it allows more fatigue to pool and settle in because you're kind of standing
Yeah.
around that 1 minute. But 5 rounds of 10 thrusters, 10 chest to bars, rest 1 minute, 5 rounds, 7 thrusters, 7 bar muscle ups. So let's just say, for the sake of the first part of the conversation, because this workout can go a lot of different ways, you didn't do well, but you're good at chest bar pull-ups and bar muscle ups.
Yeah.
What do you got
Which,
for the people?
yeah.
Yeah.
For those people that are good at chest bar pull-ups and bar muscle ups, and let's just tie in thrusters too. Like weight,
Yep.
let's just
Sure.
strength wasn't a limiter, right? Like it's not like the
Yep.
135 bar is your 1 rep max. You're currently purely capable of being able to do that. Then I think those people need to work on breathing, like lactate threshold work for sure, but like your ability to like breathe and maintain a heart rate and like do movements with a high heart rate. The biggest thing you'll see people who do poorly in this workout isn't missed repetitions. It's their ability to like transition and actually go do another repetition, right? Like you'll do your 7 thrusters unbroken and then you had to wait 45 seconds to go do your first set of bar muscle ups. So then you did 4 and you took another 30 seconds to go do 3. And then you took another 30 seconds to go pick up the thruster on repeat for those final 5 rounds. Those athletes need to work on being able to like control their heart rate and also work with a high heart rate and be comfortable doing that. And I think, this sounds very similar to all 3 workouts. It's like have a high heart rate and fucking do shit. Like that's just what CrossFit is. Like if you can't do that, you're never going to be good at it. And if you're not practicing that and, resilient in that, you're never going to be good. No one is doing that last workout and just like chilling. Even no one did in the entire world. Everyone was hurting to a certain extent. We
Mm-hmm.
had one athlete top 10 in the world and we watched him and it didn't look like it was hard, right? And so, yeah, there's some one-offs. Like you watch Noah Olson, even him, like he didn't look like he was hurting too bad. His grip looked really tired. So for some people, they actually can make the workout so easy that like it wasn't that terrible. But for the 99.7% of the rest of the world, it wasn't that, and it was that they just could not fucking breathe.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you know, in that last workout, I looked at it too, Tommy. It's like there is a common theme with these three workouts, right? And that's that anaerobic threshold realm, which is what you've been talking about for all the workouts. And with the people listening, if you're getting geared up for this entire year, take the time to build your aerobic threshold. Take the time to build that basement that allows you to go fast. And then sequentially and progressively add in the appropriate work on that anaerobic threshold area. You don't need to focus too much on VO2 max work. Like once your aerobic threshold is built, your anaerobic threshold can yield the biggest returns for both your aerobic threshold and your VO2 max. And as you saw in this year's Open, and if you can backtrack through every Open and probably quarterfinals workouts for the history of CrossFit, the better you are in that anaerobic threshold area, the better you're going to be able to perform. Because we saw this too, Tommy, at 24.3, where the people who weren't as efficient with their aerobic threshold to allow for recovery and their anaerobic threshold to allow for them to operate at a high heart rate, once they took a break, that break just kept fucking extending, right? And you look at someone, I think Will Carter, your athlete went unbroken, like Rich Froning, he broke the pull-ups up from round one and still went like 930 because his breaks were so minimal, right? It was like, and his transitions were so good. So just something for people to think about.
yeah, I mean, it's that, and for some people, like, the thruster was heavy and that caused a lot of fatigue, right? And I get that. But for the athletes who's like, that's not a hard bar, like, and there's plenty of them out there where like that's not heavy, like, then it has nothing to do with that. It just has your ability to like breathe fucking heavy. Can say that a million times.
Yeah, I love it. Well, guys, thank you for listening. That's the end of this Conquer Coaches chat. As always, give us a like, give us a share, give us a follow. If you got some good information from this, please make sure you let us know. Leave a comment. Any else you want us to speak upon, just leave a note. And we hope you guys enjoyed this session.